Now, the rest of the story.
All right, second time's a charm. First time recording, second time talking's a charm. Serves me right. I didn't make sure the camera was filming before I started talking. So, you guys can see we just got done getting a rain shower, another rain shower. It's still running off the machine shed, but that has been a pretty good string of scattered showers for the last 2 hours. And the thing is, it didn't rain for very long, but it really didn't need to. The ground is saturated, which everybody already knows, but we already got puddles and ponds all throughout the lot. The grass is growing great. I cut my grass 3 days ago, and I gotta go through and cut it again. But I also managed to get my lawnmower stuck, which I don't think anybody got to see that, but this machine behind me is still hooked up for this time of the year, is starting to get a little concerned. It's getting to the point now where it's not going to be so much, I may not even be running the cultivator completely in the ground. I'm really probably going to get to the point where I'm going to just be, if the corn is tall enough to justify it where I have to do it, where I'm going to be basically just skimming the row units on top of the soil, and even higher if I have to, because I don't want to risk breaking off any of the corn that's in the ground, and just running the liquid down onto the rows. I mean, that's getting pretty high priority here, because the corn, it's getting to that rapid growth stage where a couple hot and humid days and it's just going to grow like a weed. We are pretty much to that point now. The stuff, you guys saw that, the stuff here at the home farm at Rockville it's getting tall. Granted, it's not nearly as tall as everyone would like it to be, but the problem is the last couple of years have really spoiled us, just because we're getting so used to seeing the corn crop pretty well tasseled, or ready to tassel at 4th of July. Last year we had a pretty severe case of the rapid growth syndrome, where the corn plant was actually kind of twisting, coming up out of the ground, or coming up as it was growing so fast. It was actually looking kind of sick. Didn't hurt it in the end, at least maybe it did. I mean, we could have lost a few bushels there, but in the end it really didn't hurt us so much in yield that we were bothered by the yield. But I'm probably going to go through, I've been kicking it around here the last couple days or so, and Dad actually beat me to it. I had a appointment or an event that I had to go to the other night, and I'm pretty sure Dad went out Saturday night and went and cultivated a bunch of his soybeans. They look nice, and I haven't ever really done too much as far as cultivating soybeans in the past. You guys have heard my reasoning. Thinking about maybe potentially possibly doing it this year, just because the year, stir the soil up, kind of get some air down to the roots. I have been told on at least one field that they have gone through and top dressed that it was the last corn that I planted, and they just top dressed it, and they said that out of all the ground that he's been going over here lately, that field is probably the firmest, and not in a good way, as in it's kind of like driving on pavement. So I do want to go through and at least get that field cultivated. Granted, that's corn. I did last year, I ran out the last of my fertilizer on my soybeans. I'll probably do that again this year if I have any left, which I don't plan on it. What I'm kind of kicking around, because cultivating does seem to perk up the corn, what I'm planning on doing is, we have a couple contour strips, or just a couple strips, that are in soybeans, and my plans are to go through and cultivate half of them. Literally, I'm just going to go and cultivate half the strip, and I'm going to leave the other half uncultivated. Should leave a pretty good test strip. Yeah. And see how that actually performs this fall once we go to harvest the soybeans out of it. Seems like to me it takes quite a bit to really get soybeans to do anything or respond to much of anything. Potash, is a big thing. We did spread fertilizer. We did spread this spring. We did put a bunch of fertilizer down for our soybeans, more than what we typically do. In the past, we haven't. And this year we did go through and try it again to see, especially with the way the prices were, to try to get a little bit of a response and try to get a few more bushels there. and time will tell to see if that really changes our yield at all or not, or if it helps. But it really just depends on the weather, and that is something that I get so tired of having to say. It all depends. Yield is entirely up to Mother Nature. We did go through and got my light working. We put the 44 corn planter away off the 4640. You've had a couple people ask me some questions about the 46. Are we going to use it for hay this year? Well, probably not for cutting hay. Almost definitely not for baling hay. But we have in the past, and we very well could potentially possibly go through and use it on the rake again this year. I mean, the duals, I don't really think we're planning on taking them off. Kind of pointless at this time of the year, because we're coming up on July. Second crop will probably be cut maybe the second week of July. We are a little bit behind, so it depends on where everything ends up here. We do have a bunch of waterways and everything down at my place that does need to be cut the first time, even though it'll be the time for second cut with everything else. And I know we can't get in some of those areas with the 46, but we also have a couple fields that are nice and wide open that once we go through and ted them out, we go through with the rake. This would be a perfect match for that. We could go through and just do some straight A-B lines with the 46 and the guidance on it and make some 30-foot wide windrows, ideally. So the 46 does really well with the duals on it, even though we do like to take them off if we're going to be using it every day all summer long. But just to use it for 2 or 3 days, I really don't really think it really justifies the time, energy, and effort to take the duals off. So it's not like we actually get much wear and tear on them with what little bit we do. Last year we did pull the duals off after we went all summer without taking them out. We ended up hauling a bunch of corn with the 4640 and the Easy Trail wagon hidden back in the corner. In the end, that really didn't really hurt, take the duals off, because we were going at the feed store, driving in between the buildings. It's a lot easier not trying to squeeze through with the duals. Plus, for the amount that we were on the road, literally 3 or 4 times a day, going back and forth between the farm and the feed store, it was worth it then. But just between the fields a couple times throughout the day or whatever else, I don't think we're taking the duals off. So hopefully I answered that question. The 4640, even though it's all the way over there, as far as horsepower and everything else like that, I know everybody is wondering what has gone out above and beyond as far as telling me how to get what the tractor actually puts out. I am very full aware of tractordata.com. The reason that I've been saying the numbers that this tractor is currently at, this tractor has never been at the factory settings since we got it. It wasn't at the factory settings when Dad bought it. It was putting out 180 horse on the dyno right before they loaded it on the truck to bring it to the farm. And according to the local dealership, I mean, it was Sloan's that we bought it from. It's putting out 180 horse, and we may have turned it up a little bit more than we should have. Probably going to have to turn that down again here. Haven't yet, but it is definitely a possibility. We haven't had any more mechanical issues with it, but it's not exactly like we abuse our equipment. I don't feel like we abuse our equipment. It might seem like it on YouTube, but a little bit that you guys are able to see online, I'm not calling anybody out, don't get me wrong, or misinterpret what I'm saying, but a little bit that is actually shown on YouTube is such a very small sliver as to what all goes on around here. I do have a list of things that, the bugs are coming out, that I want to start getting done here. We do have some fences to touch up. We have some fences to fix. We have a couple floodgates to actually go through and put in. I have a pasture that hasn't had cattle in it all year long because it has a couple trees on it that we are actually needing to take either of the skid steers. Yes, the JCB is still here, and then go up and actually pull the trees off with the grapple bucket and get them pushed back away from the fence so we can fix the fence. It's got two trees on the fence, or two different spots on the fence. Tripping over my own words here. It has two separate spots with trees on the fence that we got to go through and fix. And then we have two floodgates we have to fix. The problem is, with all the rain, with all the flooding we've been having, we're a little gun shy to go through and start putting in new floodgates just yet, because this pasture in particular and these two floodgates in particular are our worst gates to try to keep up, because they are the first ones to go. So typically the last ones we want to fix. We won't have cattle in that pasture probably for another month yet at the earliest, and because of the current hay situation, our hay, and I can't really speak for any other guys in the area because I haven't been talking to a lot of other people, is the fact that our second crop hay is coming back very light. And the reason I'm going to accuse that, or what I'm going to blame that on, is the fact that it is wet, the roots are wet, the fields have been pretty well soaked since first crop, and the amount of sunlight we've had has been extremely limited. I'm very happy, very impressed, don't get me wrong, by how far along the corn and the soybeans are starting to get, even at this point in the year, just for the conditions we've had. So, it is what it is. What else do you guys want to see going on around here? That's the long and the short of it. Maybe I need to skip a few days posting videos, because it is literally the same thing day in and day out. It is hurry up and wait. That was a popular term up at school, and hurry up and wait is referred to, you have things you should be doing, but you got to wait for something else to pass so you can get out and do it. We can go out and play in the rain and play in the mud and fix fences, but honestly, when you don't have to, why would you? We are going through, and I do have the 76 is on the 4155, if you guys can see it back there. I did cut a little bit of ditches and grass with this just the other day, but here's the problem. The banks and everything are so soft, and I think for some of my just some of my viewers have been around since last year, that road bank that is kind of steeper than what most people would probably cut. I went out and I was cutting that the other day, and I actually lost my nerve on some of it, and I decided to actually let a bunch of it go, just because even on the parts of the hill, the bank, that really isn't all that steep, I was actually breaking traction, and I actually slid sideways down the hill with the 76 with the new skin on the front and rears. So I mean, yes, this machine is fairly heavy. I mean, honestly, going across the hillsides, this thing was actually fishtailing a little bit. It was drifting downhill on me, but the ground is soaked. The ground is saturated. I mean, we could probably go, not to jinx myself, but we could probably go 6 to 8 weeks with dry weather. Now, when I say dry weather, I do not mean, I got this chain came off. I don't fix it now, I'm going to forget about it. I'm not saying we need 10 weeks, or not 10 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of dry weather. That does not mean drought weather, where we don't get rain whatsoever. I'm talking 6 to 8 weeks where we get blue sky, sunshine, and maybe that awfully elusive summer weather that we have not gotten yet, and then and then get a shot of rain every 7 to 10 days. So, because even with the amount of moisture that we got now, to go back and get, let's see, that's Calvin right there. Hey buddy. I'm terrible at multitasking right now, aren't I? Oh, see, that's what he does. He chases me around and lays within 3 feet of me. If we went through and we didn't get rain for 6 weeks straight, I really wouldn't want to see the damage to the crops from doing that. The reason I say that is because I think a lot of guys are concerned about the fact that it has been so wet since we planted the corn, the beans, that the roots never really had to grow, never had to really stretch to get down to moisture. So the big concern is if it gets dry in any real measurable, concernable amount, what's going to happen is the plants are going to suffer because they do not have the roots available, the root growth, to reach down to any of the moisture that is really available. So getting steady rain from here on out is actually a very real concern. It could dry up July, August, which we're hoping it dries up but not completely dries out, and we see a nice rest of the year. The amount of moisture we've been getting, I think, has kind of helped us with some of the compaction that we may have caused this spring for being in the field when it was too soft, but when honestly we really didn't have a choice. I do have some ground that, yeah, chisel plowing is still going to be pretty prevalent this year. We have some ground that we're definitely going to have to chisel just because of the very obvious compaction it has in it, and I'm really hoping I can get through and cultivate that ground yet, and at least try to break the soil up. And we are probably going to possibly kick around the idea of just VTing a bunch of ground, VTing it in the fall, VTing it in the spring, and seeing what it does. But like I said, all boils back to the weather. But that's, if I keep talking, this is going to be another 15-minute long video. So, all right, you guys are watching, as you all know, the rest of the story. Not to beat a dead horse, but I've had people kind of ask me about it because I've gone the last 6 to 8 months without having any merchandise available. I've had a link available where people could click on that and try to buy merchandise. Turns out that's a broken link. It asks for an address or an email password. That was never an issue when I first did it. I don't know what has changed. As far as contacting the people, forget it. I went with a different provider. It has sweatshirts, t-shirts, tank tops, leggings for those of you that like wearing the leggings. I don't have socks or anything else like that, but from pillows to blankets to stickers. Stickers seems to be a pretty popular choice. I should buy a couple of those for myself. I mean, I do have the window decals that my sister made for me, but yeah, there is a pretty nice little assortment of stuff on there, and I'm hoping it'll satisfy some of my viewers' desires or, well, your requests to have some merchandise available with. It's just my standard the rest of the story logo, so, which I think looks pretty good, by the way. And with that, I hope you guys are getting favorable weather wherever you are. And for those of you that did buy any of the merchandise, make sure you text me, let me know, comment down below something, post it on Instagram and tag me to it. I'd like to see how the logos and everything are turning out. I want to buy a couple sweatshirts for myself, and I'll be wearing those later on in the year, hopefully. So that's the plan. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you later.